All right, guys, back again as always to let you know what's happening with the Super Eagles of Nigeria right at this moment. There's actually a trend, that's going on with the Ghana national team. So I just wanted to talk about it and then relate it with the Super Eagles because obviously it's bound to happen with the Super Eagles once we get the ticket of the 2026 World Cup in the bag in November. Uh, you know, this is obviously going to happen. So what's happening right now with the Ghana national team is that they are actually receiving a record amount of foreign players calling in, reaching the FA, reaching the current coach, Ato Ado, saying they want to play for the country or saying that they are now ready to play for the country, you know. And it's actually quite funny because these same players uh, were contacted early on or previously, but Ato Ado confirmed it that they contacted a lot of these players and they made it clear that they didn't want to play. Some came up with reasons that you might argue it was a good enough reason. Some blatantly said, no, we are not uh, really thinking about playing for Ghana at this point or at this time. But I mean, what at the end of the day, they refused. They refused to come help the team when Ato Ado was trying to build up a squad fit enough to play in the qualifiers and then get the World Cup ticket. But right now, all of them are rushing back in because they want to be at the World Cup next year. You know, if we're talking about the likes of Odoi Hudson, we're talking about this other guy in Nketa, who both of them actually were, waiting for England. I think Nketiah had already made one appearance or so, even Callum Odoi Hudson, but they have not been captied to the English Three Lions. And then they've not also been able to make the Three Lions in recent times. But they've now contacted the coach, based on recent reports talking about how they want to be in the squad, that they are available if the coach would have them uh, play in the squad. So this is basically what's happening right now. And to be honest, it's quite funny because you don't want to be part of the team that actually does the work, but when the work is done and then the fruit is being harvested, you want to be part of the squad to reap from the fruits that you didn't plant or you didn't sow. That sounds like a greedy, that sounds like a greedy request. But I'm just going to let you know what the reaction has been, in even from the coach himself, Ato Ado. So this was the first initial reaction of the Ghanaian coach when these messages, from foreign players started to pour in. He said it is going to be difficult for players who rejected us in the past to be called up. We as Ghanaians, we need to have some national pride. But these messages keeps coming in. I mean, it keeps pouring in from these players who are interested. Recently, there's a goalkeeper by the name Richard Ofori who also expressed his interest in helping Ghana, in the World Cup 2026. Went as far as brandishing or trying to brandish the coach by saying, Coach Ato is a good man, when he was making his statement. And then he further goes on to say, I'm working out with my team to help us in the league, and then the rest will take care of itself. Recently, I haven't spoken to Coach Ato Ado, but before he used to call me. He's a good man, and he used to check up on his players. That's what he said, you know. But the recent reaction from the coach or the recent response from Ato Ado regarding this is found in this statement. He says, we'll look at each case one by one. There are players I have been pursuing since 2021 who didn't respond to our calls or who initially didn't want to come. It's a difficult situation if we haven't approached you and now you want to come, or if we've been trying to reach you all along and now at the World Cup you want to come. So that's basically what's happening right now with the Ghanaian team. I don't know who these people are expecting, these new, foreign players. Who are they expecting to make way for them to enter? Are they expecting the people that have suffered to get the qualification ticket? Are they expecting them to be dropped in their favor? It's just so funny and crazy at the same time. So this is also something that's related to the Super Eagles story. Of course, as you know, there are a couple of players we've been chasing. There are a couple of players who've been on their neck, trying to see if we can get them to come play for the Super Eagles. Talk about Tosin. Talk about um, George, Elenikana, and a whole lot of other players. So this is something that could potentially happen if we get the qualification ticket. Of course, right now we are at the playoffs. We have a game against Gabon on the 14th of November. And if we eventually qualify from this playoff, I would expect the same energy that the Ghana FA are getting from these foreign players to also be channeled to the Super Eagles, where we see all these players all of a sudden remember that, hey, we have to come play for Nigeria. So if this is the case, at the end of the day, maybe Nigeria Super Eagles qualify, and then the Tosin Adarabioyo, the George Elenikana, the Noah Atobolu, the goalkeeper, the German goalkeeper, German Nigerian goalkeeper, would it still be okay if we decide to accept these people if they come back and say, okay, we now realize we want to play for Nigeria, or, want to play in the World Cup? Will it be okay for the NFF to actually consider accepting these guys? Whether we like it or not, they will definitely add quality to the team. That one is a sure thing. But again, there's a question of loyalty, credibility, and inferiority, kind of looking at one country as inferior to the other one because you didn't get the call up from a much higher country in your own mind, and then you're now going to the lower country. So all these things are things that we factored in. But I just wanted to hear your opinion about it. For me, if you refuse us, or if you refuse me when I come calling for you to help out, and you refuse me, and then all of a sudden when I'm successful and you're not coming back, there's no way for you. There's no room for you because obviously other people will have filled that room, that space. That is just as simple as that. So that's my take on it. But again, let's talk about some of the recent reactions that has been going on right now. Sunday Lucy is in the updates as he has now come out to give Kucharik Shell a very, very strict warning. He has told Kucharik Shell to start dropping William Troost Ekong because he feels that Ekong is not as sharp as he used to be. He feels that Ekong will not get us the result that we need, or the result that we actually seek. Olise said that he's not against Ekong. There's no issue. He's just stating facts. Talking about how Ekong's recent performance for the Super Eagles had been nothing to write home about. We've considered goals when he's in. We've considered even own goals. Coming from him. But when he's out, all of a sudden our defense is coordinated. We keep clean sheets. And we win matches. Most importantly. So for this reason, Sunday Lucy feels that if Kucharik Shaw wants to progress, if he wants to, really get results, especially from this playoff onward, he has to be dropping Ekong in the bench. And he's not saying that I should not invite him eventually if we qualify to the World Cup. He's not saying that I should not invite him to the World Cup because obviously, going to the World Cup, you're going to need a mixture of experience and young players. So he wants Ekong to go to the World Cup, but not as a starter, unless maybe something else happens, like he's being introduced and then he gives us the result. He plays very well, keeps clean sheets, and things like that. But this is how Sunday Lucy said it in his own words. He said, if we want to have a bright chance of going to the World Cup, just Ekong has to be put on the bench. It's as simple as that. You get to play for the Super Eagles based on the results you bring in. If you look at the last 3 or 4 games we played, the 2 matches Ekong didn't feature in, we didn't concede a goal. The reality is very simple. You don't go into a game as a manager looking at sentiment. You play the best players. Play only those who are in the top form, not because of sentiments. I'm saying it clearly. Drop the captain and let him take a break. I'm not saying don't take him to the World Cup, but for these games, he needs to rest. uh, the team needs it. The philosophy of the group needs it. At the moment, we play better when our captain isn't on the pitch. So that is the legend talking there. Do you agree with the statements? Is this something that makes sense to you, or is one of those things that he says that you don't take serious? But I'll leave it here. That's the update for now. Of course, the weekend is almost upon us. We get to see our players ball, and thrill us with great performances in their respective club sides.